Hello, welcome back. In this video, we are going to cover my new Pyromancer build, Maid's Big Balls of Fire. This build is really fun to play and very powerful in solo play. We're going to cover the pros and cons of this build, skill tree, the skills utilized, and the gear necessary to make this build sing. And then after that, we will discuss the strategy, the playstyle, and why it works. This build utilizes Heat Wave, Overheat, and Fazer Beam, as well as Untamed power to produce insanely sick damage numbers. The goal of this build is to pump up that AP, the Anomaly power. This is going to make your Untamed mod blast your enemies. Goal is to get in nice and close, punch people with your fiery fist, and then fuck them with your Fazer Beam. I'm enjoying this build more than my previous Thermal Bomb debuffing build. The swagger is just insane. I love seeing the big bright orange balls around my chest when they just pop off. You hit your Fazer Beam, you hit 5 targets, you got 5 humongous balls just circling around you at all times. It's beautiful. Each of those balls represents a 20% buff to your Anomaly power. 20 times 5 is 100%. That is a humongous AP buff. We need to make sure we run the top 3 pieces of the Akari set plus boots and gloves, which give us cooldown, status power, and Anomaly. This is going to allow us to get our cooldowns really low, primarily our Fazer Beam below 10 seconds on the cooldown. This means that as soon as it's ready to come off cooldown, we don't have to worry about losing our big bally buffs. This build is going to be less of a team player than other debuffing builds like my previous video. This is because you only are providing 1 damage buff on your Heat Wave for 25% compared to also running Thermal Bomb with 40%. The bonus to this build though is that if you play with other Pyromancers, especially ones that are running Volcanic rounds and Ash, oh boy, you are stealing so much of their damage from their dots because your Overheat is just clapping ass. It's consuming both fire and ash. This makes your Overheat pump out insane damage numbers from across the map. It's fantastic. One of the biggest pros of this build is the tankiness. I'm currently running the tier 2 mod on my boots, which provides 10% bonuses to max health for each enemy within 10 meters. This stacks 3 times, so 30% max health. This character, when I'm up close, which I always am, has about 29k health. It is amazing. All of your abilities heal you due to your impressive skill leech. My absolute favorite part of this build has to be the fact that when you kick in Fazer Beam, besides seeing the swag of the Kamehameha, you get the ability to not be staggered. Your move is uninterruptible, and that to me is so fun, especially when you're at the feet of an elite. And they're trying to melee you off and you're having absolutely none of it because as hard as they want to beat you off, you're not moving, bud. Weaknesses of this build are going to be your firepower is pretty anemic with your gun, but you're pretty much using your gun as a setup with a high damage mod like Shadow Comet and or Ash. This is because you're going to want to put another source of Ash or Burn in order to consume those with your Overheat. Long range is non-existent with this build. You need to hit shots with your Fazer Beam at enemies that are far away. This is problematic because Fazer Beam absolutely has a range cap, 70-ish meters, and then after that it just runs out of gas, and it may look like it goes on forever, but it absolutely won't cross map somebody with the Fazer. The other biggest problem that is not surprising to anybody because the Pyromancer is seemingly really bad with this unless they have Volcanic rounds, you're gonna get ass f***ed by birds again. It's a real thing. The Strix, the birds, all those things you senseless, and it is not a very pleasurable experience. The best thing you can do is try to either hit them with your gun, setting them on fire, or ashing them and then overheating them. You don't have a way to really hit them with your Heat Wave. And Fazer Beam, good luck trying to hit a bird moving at full speed, flopping around with your Fazer Beam. It's not happening. It's very tough. Skill tree real quick. Most of this is going to be spec'd into the Tempest tree for explosive damage on our Overheat. Also focusing on big cooldowns, especially for the middle tree there. We want to make sure we confirm the point, which is going to give us a bonus cooldown towards Fazer and Heat Wave. You have some options here. You can spec out of some of the max health nodes I've chosen. I personally wouldn't recommend that. The tankiness is very fun, but you could get away with putting points into the bottom Tempest tree. There are 2 increase burn damage nodes in the Tempest tree that you could opt into putting. I would recommend doing that over the skill damage in the Tempest tree. This is because you're actually getting a ton of damage from Untamed power, and that will benefit precisely 0% from those nodes. For the gear, the highlights here are you want to be running a gun with either Ash and or Burn. I found that running the Wicker, first of all, super fun. I love my SMGs. Very fun gun. The Wicker comes with the tier 3 Ash bullets on there, so that's perfect. And then I tried almost every single mod you can imagine, and the one that I like most was Shadow Comet or the tier 2 mod Resistance Piercer. And this is because shooting enemies with your gun with Resistance Piercer will just make all of your other abilities do more damage. However, I did find that the ability to have 3-second cooldown on 250-ish thousand damage from Shadow Comet is very tough to beat. Some of my other choices would be Kinetic Stomp, big chunks of damage there, you're always in close, or also running Moaning Winds, very fun. It's just got a long cooldown. For your armor, you have to run the Akari set. You need the hat, the chest, the pants. A lot of comments in my previous videos about how the chest piece won't drop, and I feel bad. My heart goes out to you. I've been grinding like a slave. I have pretty much everything I need, and it's very fun when you get there, but it's worth it. The Akari set bonus is so fucking lit. And so don't be discouraged, you'll get it eventually. I will say though that now that I think about it, I've only found 2 Akari chest pieces. I'm not going to show you my gameplay time because it would make most people sick, but suffice to say it's a lot, and it does seem to be an incredibly rare drop. Because of the Akari set piece bonus, we use our Heat Wave as our ultimate setup move. Heat Wave, try to hit as many enemies as possible to stack our Anomaly power up nice and fat. We've also given a 25% damage buff to anybody we hit with Heat Wave. Then it's time to cast our Fazer Beam, which is going to be buffed from Ashen Champion, which is going to give us our big, bright orange balls. My favorite. They're so pretty to look at. I love when you go to revive a teammate and you have all 5 of your balls on your chest and you're kind of hunched over and they're like, oh my god, Major balls are in my face. I'm like, I know, it's only 10 seconds. It doesn't last very long, but it's not about the stamina. So we've got our Ashen Champion, which is super important. We also want to make sure we have the tier 3 mod, which gives us the ability to consume ash or fire with our overheat. This is just pumping out massive damage with overheat. Overheat and Untamed power are going to be our biggest sources of damage, with Fazer being a nice setup move as well, but also having a high knockout power punch once we've acquired all of our buffs from Heat Wave. Because of our gear, our overheat cooldown is blazingly fast, sub 5 seconds. This is a great move for interrupting. I will say this build is the quickest build to activate Elite's immune resistance phases. I have never seen so many Elites glow blue so quickly. Everything we do is going to trigger their ability to ignore our other status effects and our interrupts. I elected to run the mod which gives me max health for enemies in close range. There are so many viable options in this slot you can mess with. It depends on what you're looking for. The damage on this character is no problem. I would highly recommend some form of tankiness, particularly because abusing the Golem glitch, which I have been doing recently, is going to get patched very soon, and so I am speccing out accordingly. These are some of my favorite mods which I would recommend to run in that slot. I feel as though Bullet Kindling was trash. I was running it for a very long time. I don't think the 20% bonus is that helpful, and I was a little bit disappointed. I felt like switching to other gear was much more viable, and I have no problems completing many of the tier 15 expeditions in sub 9-minute times, and this build absolutely passes the Boomtown test of 6 whatever minutes solo. This build is very, very frenetic and hectic to play. I just try to stand at the feet of the elites and try not to let them beat my meats while I'm playing with my big balls on my chest. And this is because you have so much damage coming from your Untamed power mod. Yes, it triggers when you melee. So if all of your skills are on cooldown, you're going to want to melee, skill, shoot, melee, skill, shoot, melee. All of these things, besides shooting obviously, are going to trigger your Untamed power mod. If you've buffed your character correctly by getting hits with both Heat Wave and Fazer Beam, the Untamed power mod does 30% of your Anomaly power. This build has no problem consistently coasting over 900,000 Anomaly power. 30% of 900,000 is a big number, 300k, and that's a AoE effect too, so it's not just directed at one enemy. Any enemy within 5 meters of you is taking that Untamed power damage. This build is my favorite I've done so far. I greatly miss Thermal Bomb, but the swagger of the Fazer and the originality of it, it's not some cookie cutter meta build, which is a big reason why I love it. I had a lot of fun messing with it, and I'm going to eventually try an Eruption build. I don't see how it's possible to dethrone this build for all-around versatility, stability, strength, and fun, but we're going to see if we can make Eruption work. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment, leave a subscribe, growing the channel. Really having a fun time doing it as well. I hope to see you soon. Until next time, we out.